Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DC Art and Focus panel at New York Comic Con. We have a very special panel planned for you today of interesting conversation with two of my favorite artists. We have Nick Derington, who has been an artist for DC on Doom Patrol and on Batman Universe with Brian Michael Bendis, and is currently working on some upcoming Batman work that we might touch on a little bit. Also, Riley Rossmo, artist for a variety of DC projects, currently working on something for Future State, recently did some Harley Quinn, and in general has been one of the craziest DC artists I know. If you haven't seen his Martian Manhunter, oh my goodness, that is going to blow your mind. So hey, Nick and Riley, how are you guys doing today?
Hey, Jamie. How's it going?
Good. Haven't seen either of you in a while, so it's good to sort of connect this way. You guys, to me, are an interesting combination because you both represent sort of a very modern style that is grounded in the classics, but Riley, you sort of go off in sort of a crazy, chaotic direction, and Nick himself is like a little more refined in terms of the line art and the cartooning, but it's almost like a jazz combo if we could put you together, how you would do your solos and things. Just a quick introductions of yourselves. How did you get into comic books? How did you get into drawing? Like, what was your initial secret origins?
Well, for me, it's a lifelong passion. Ever since I was a little kid, I was obsessed with drawing, cartoons, comic strips, and comic books. And then you find out that people have to really make these things themselves. And so it became a goal and an obsession. You can't get good at this without being obsessed. So it was a lifelong task to get good at this.
How about you, Riley?
I read G.I. Joe. I got G.I. Joe number 4 or something from my grandma when I was 5 years old, and that was it. It's Herb Trimpe art, and that was it. So I read G.I. Joe forever, and then I just wanted to make comics. I just love comics.
It was G.I. Joe number 2 for me. That was actually the first one I bought.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I always forget what number it is because it was a reprint, and it's about Cobra's making a giant blue robot that's kind of Kirby-ish, and I don't know what the robot's going to do, but the October Guard's in it, and I don't know.
So we have actually some of your artwork to look at today, so I actually think we're starting off with our first image. Nick, you co-created a character with Brian Michael Bendis called Ginny Hex, and so we're looking here at the Ginny Hex special number 1 coming out in December that you did the cover for. The book will be by Mags Visaggio and Gleb Melnikov, but this is the finished cover, which you colored yourself, if I remember correctly.
No, I had Nick Filardi do it.
Oh, that's correct, Nick Filardi.
Yeah, he's a good fit. It looks like how I would do it. Yeah, it's great.
So here we have, like, side by side, we've got your initial sketch with color treatment, which is a little darker, and then we have the finished inks. Can you tell us a little bit how you start a cover? How do you approach this kind of process to get it rolling?
Well, with covers, it's half visual, half idea. You need to figure out something that communicates the character, the story, or just an interesting concept, something that's novel. And there's different ways to get to that final goal. And so, yeah, a lot of it's just staring at a ceiling with a sketchbook in your lap and seeing what comes to mind as you like explore the idea. Sometimes it's the very first sketch and the initial idea, and sometimes it takes 100 drawings, and and you want to rip your eyeballs out, and you have to go take a shower and come back to it. And
but I have a question for you about that. So you get like the prompt, right?
Yeah.
And then you do a bunch of drawings, and is there just one? Is there that you're like, this is the one?
Well, I think for me, that's kind of the fun of having a good editor, is that because a cover has to do so many different things. It has to tell the story, has to just look cool. Sometimes there's behind the scenes things that it needs to accomplish, and a good editor can help guide what needs to get checked most off that checkbox.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about this one is there's so much character going on in that you see Ginny and her expression, but you also have you have an old time rifle because it's sort of a Western story, but then it's futuristic. So you have the ray gun. So you have both past and future. And then that, of course, her trunk that is full of crazy treasures, just to see it glowing like that. Like, it conveys a lot without really getting in your face about it. So people could, if they really wanted to study it, could see quite a bit.
Yeah, with that one too. Yeah, you got the future and the past, because this is a time travel story, and her box of tricks is just like, you want to imply something that the audience isn't seeing,
Right.
and so it encourages you to open the book like she would open that box, and the adventure would begin at that point.
So on the next slide, we actually have a cover by Guillaume March for Harley Quinn 75, which Riley, you contributed to. What can you tell us a little bit about Harley Quinn 75, what it was that you did in the story? And I think the next slide will actually show us some of your artwork too.
So I did what happens after Punchline cuts Harley's throat. And so there's this in-between period between when she gets her throat slit, that was a lot. And it's this sort of near-death experience that she has and comes back from it.
So the script was it Sam Humphries wrote this?
Yeah.
Did the script call out, like, for instance, here you have a lot of like open panels, and the first page you don't really have any traditional panels at all. How is the script? How do you decide to do something that's maybe a little unmoored like this when you're approaching the story?
Like I prefer just sort of a loose, like I guess the Marvel way, or more the Marvel way, and just talk lots with the writer. And Sam just said, kind of do what you want to do, and we'll figure it out. And these are the story pieces that have to happen. And I try to anchor the page with like a big sort of detailed image, sets up the, like where we are, what's going on, or something just really cool, just a really cool image like Harley on that first slide. As she loses consciousness, she's also descending into the water that's impossibly deep. And then build the rest of it around there, add the little details in the page around that.
Nick, do you prefer a more detailed script, or do you prefer a looser script to work off? Because we worked with a couple of different writers together, and Jared Way, for instance, can write really dense scripts like he did on Doom Patrol. Bendis can go back and forth like he did on Batman Universe.
But it gets even more complicated too, where sometimes you have a loose thing where it's like, here's a 2-page fight, and make sure that they end up falling off the bridge together,
right?
And just make it cool. With Gerard in particular, it was like, okay, here's the script, but if any edit, it was always up for being better. So like, as you'd work on it, like if you come up with a cooler idea, let me know, or I would catch something where like, oh wait, they're going down this hallway, and all of a sudden this part of the script doesn't connect here. So with me and Gerard, it was the script was the beginning of a conversation sometimes, even though it was very detailed and very planned out.
Yeah, Riley, you have a pretty good relationship with Steve Orlando, and on Martian Manhunter, I know the scripts had a lot of information, but they were also very loose in terms of plot. Do you have a similar relationship with Steve, where you guys have a back and forth like that?
Yeah, I would just have an idea, and I just say, so this page is going to be like a side-scrolling thing with all these tubes or whatever, and Steve would just say, okay, we'll figure it out after. Or sometimes he would say, I don't know, and I would just say, I'll draw it, and if it sucks, I'll redo it. It's fine. It's fine. I don't think there's many redos. Once in a while, I get too involved with it and start drawing all kinds of stuff, and have to step back from it and be like, oh, I went too far, and redo a page or whatever.
But you're fast. So it's no way.
kind of. I just get obsessed with stuff. Well, I get obsessed about stuff, and then it's all I can do for a little while. I redid a page over the weekend because I couldn't stop thinking about just how these legs were. So last night I was watching TV and drawing till 11:30 or something, trying to figure out how Kirby drew knees to draw. I don't know. Somehow that's going to make everything clear.
I think you sent 4 versions in my email this morning. So, and one were radically different. He was like, I could also do it this way. And there was one more. There was one more before that too that I didn't like. The torso was all weird, and I abandoned it. Does that happen to you, Nick? Do you ever get like, you draw a thing, and then you're like, okay, it's done, and you step back from it, and you're like, oh, it's not done, and you have to
That's time is always a factor with it. Like, 'cause you want that next day eyeballs on it. You can spend a night obsessing over something. You come up with all these cool ideas. And then you need space to walk away from it and come back to it, and then the solution will be clear. Sometimes you don't have that next day time, so you're like, all right, this is as good as it's getting tonight, and then move on to the next thing. But when you have that walk away time, it's nice to approach an idea with fresh eyes.
So, Nick, one of the most recent things you did for us was an arc on Batman Superman, where you were Josh Williamson. What attracted you to this project in the first place? And here's another one of your covers for people to see. But what drew you to Batman Superman?
A bunch of different things. Where it's like I moved up here in the Portland area, and Josh is up here, and we became quick friends, and we were kind of just looking for something to work on together. So there's the personal thing. I was kind of itching to play with Superman. He's just this like cultural icon, and I just gotten off doing a bunch of Batman stuff, and I still had that itch, and so yeah, it was fun too, because that in particular with that project, that was another thing where that was just a huge conversation between me and Josh. So he's like, "What do you want to draw?" You know, that's the best thing you want to hear.
That's the best. That's absolutely the best.
And so with that one, like, I love high concept stuff, and it was like, okay, we got 2 issues to fill. What do you want to do? I'm like, we got 2 heroes and it's 2 issues. I like that. Let's do 2 villains, and let's figure out 2 other things. Now I'm obsessed with the Bottle City of Kandor, and so I was like, well, let's the Bottle City of Kandor into 2. Let's have us like a civil war between inside of Kandor, and they like break into 2 Kandors, and so he's like, okay, let's do that, and we like went off to the races with all those ideas.
So what I like here is we're looking at sort of your layouts and your final inks. But I like that in your layouts on the left there, that you actually make room and indicate where you want the balloons and the captions to go.
Are you saying that everyone does that?
I wish everyone did that, because sometimes I'm not sure some folks are thinking about that, and then I have to figure out what to cover up of their beautiful artwork.
It's a personal obsession of mine, really, where it's like, if you look at a comic book page, you have these square panels, which are little windows into worlds, but then you have these giant blocks of white balloons or white rectangles. There are these huge graphic elements on the page, and they're just as important as anything else that's happening visually on there. And if anything, it's almost more important if you like read about how people actually read comic books. They're bouncing from word balloon to word balloon, and about half the time, like what's happening in the drawings are just kind of absorbed visually, and so making sure designing where the word balloons goes, it's that's where the eye is going to happen. So like you can tell so much of the story with how the eye darts across and follows. If someone's falling off a thing, and then they're saying stuff, and it reads into the thing. Yeah, there's a momentum to where your eye flows across to connect the word balloons. Yeah.
Riley, how often do you dig into that? Do you do much in terms of balloon placement, or how do you approach a page when you're just laying it out like this?
I think about where your eye goes. Like it's on those pages we showed earlier. When I do really weird layouts, I still am really concerned with like the zigzag form that's created. Like whether the panels are organic or not. There's some like formal things like left stacking panels. It doesn't work, except sometimes it does work, but I don't do it because I can't make it work. But I'll do like a zigzag panel it'll be like a crossword puzzle where there'll be a panel here, 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 a panel here. And as long as the like characters' gazes or really strong visual elements point that way, you can mess up the order a little bit. But yeah, I try and be very aware of the graphic elements that direct the eye through the page. I feel sorry for the letterers.
Order stuff.
Pardon me?
It's also speaking order, where like if you have
speaking order
conversation, like working with Brian Michael Bendis, he one of his like notorious scripting habits is having like what's essentially like 12 word balloons in one panel, and so like my OCD drawing brain designer head like wants all that to look good and work right. And which is just like this crazy challenge, and it's frustrating too because he's gonna like change stuff after he gets the artwork anyway. But I like the challenge of it. So like you'll have this like meatball, like spaghetti stuff, and I try to like break up the panels. Cause yeah, I'll take a script and like, okay, he has like 5 word balloons in this one thing. Well, I can make this first guy way on the left says something at the very end of it. I'm just gonna take that, turn it into a close up, and add an extra panel, have a little moment, and it'll like punctuate the scene better, and it'll make it a long tail all the way over.
Yeah, because sometimes there's a, like, I know if especially on a team book, if there's a bunch of characters, a team standing together, and you can just put the dialogue order in. If you're like, if it's just like a flat shot, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it has to be dynamic, right? So it's like a low angle thing or something. So you're still thinking about this character talks, then this character talks, but this character's in the foreground. So it's a real design thing. I think that's interesting. I love the design challenge of that.
What do you do if the writer, say, gives you too much that you feel like could fit on the page, or like gets, like, I think the classic example is like a description of a panel where, say, the Batman comes in the door, turns on the light, puts his keys down, takes off his mask, and you're like, that's not one panel, that's 4. What do you do when a writer gives you so much and you have to figure out, like, well, what is actually the essential thing on this page?
The hard part of that is, like, once in a while there's a page in Batman Shadow that I'm throwing Steve under the bus here, that Batman is tackling someone who's shooting somebody else in the panel, and that person's falling out a window. That's the splash page. Like, that's not possible. I don't think this is not possible. But I sweated it for days and days, and then, I mean, it kind of works. Is like Batman's this big shape coming in the extreme foreground, and then he's tackling this woman who's shooting a gun into the page, and then way small in the back of the panel is the villain is in front of a window and the window is breaking. But it would really be better as like 4 panels.
There's also the weird thing too, where like sometimes you'll get a script description where you're like, this doesn't work, and you just get all angry sitting in your office by yourself working on stuff. You're like, this stupid writer, da da da. And you start thinking about it, and you end up figuring out a way to make it work, and it ends up becoming better because it's dense. Like, stuff is fun to look at. Like part of the appeal of Watchmen is that there's 4 things happening in every panel. It's like just like dense with things to look at and think about. And so like when some bad writer like has a character doing too much stuff in one panel, sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes you accidentally make a really cool, visually dense moment. And so those are hard. They're hard to draw, and they take a lot of time because you're like sliding around, and making everything fit. And yeah,
I feel like pages with a lot of panels are easier to compose. Like, it's easier to get away with more than, like, if I would have broke up that, and I didn't mean, like, Steve is amazing, Martian Manhunter's awesome, but when it's just one panel saying all that stuff, it's a lot harder to do it. Like, it's just a lot harder to pull it out. But if you have a bunch of little panels and there's all kinds of like little things going everywhere, it's just visually the texture saves the day.
I'm working with Steve right now on Tales of the Dark Multiverse, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Mike Perkins is drawing, and it's an insane amount of characters because it's Crisis. But Steve will be like, "How come like Dr. Midnight's button is missing on this one?" Like, well, look at everything else, dude. Like, you're messing over the button.
Because the artist was one button away from slitting his wrists that night.
Exactly. Because you bring up Watchmen, which is a great example, because Dave Gibbons would always talk about having to sort of go through the Alan Moore's pages and highlight, okay, this is what I'm actually going to draw versus all this other information you've given me. But you brought up Batman, and our next slides are actually from Detective 1027, which is the 1000th issue of Detective with Batman in it. So we have some of Riley's pages from that. That's a cover by some up-and-comer, Jim Lee. I think he's a new creator that we're giving a shot to. Hopefully he'll work out. But here's a double-page spread that you did, Riley. James Tynan wrote this, I believe, and here you have one big image, but then a bunch of storytelling now going on the bottom. You have this red running through. Can you kind of talk us through some of your ideas here?
Well, it's the first spread of the book. The first page is and this we worked like really loose script, super loose script on. James was like, Dead Man shows up, and do whatever in the sequence, and then I can do whatever I want. So Dead Man is an awesome sort of visual device to lead the eye through it, and then I color it red because sometimes I turn these things into Ivan to color, and I don't think, who knows what that like line of goop is, so I have to color code it. Well, I feel like I should color code it so he knows what's going on. So we start with the big huge image, and Batman's being Batman, and I like when Robin is kind of fun and exuberant and playful. So I try to reflect that in his body language. So that's like the big image that hits the viewer first, and then the other stuff, like Nick says, is just gonna have dialogue over it. People aren't gonna pay attention really. They'll just be like, I don't know, Batman, whatever, talking. But that, I can't remember what the script said now, but the fourth panel in there, I was very pleased with. That has
the dead man face of Robin.
The panel, yeah. I can't remember why I decided to do that. I don't think it was particularly important. I think he's just creeping out Robin. that's so I just like, yep, I'm doing this because it's fun.
I'm being fact checked live here, and apparently I messed up. And this is a cover by Andy Kubert, not by Jim Lee, which I should have seen the signature right there. So Jim's only my boss, so hopefully he won't watch this and decide that I'm out. It's all, yeah, Jim just rips off Andy Kubert anyway. I think I got like one more page here from O'Reilly, but I have a question related to how this is done in terms of the red. I noticed on your layouts, Nick, you also used a variety of colors when you're laying stuff out. Why would you choose to do that as opposed to just doing it straightforward?
Yeah, I use red for all like word balloons. Again, it was one of those things where like I know this is all gonna be in color, so those white boxes and balloons are gonna pop forward, and there's gonna be where your eye's gonna flow across. So yeah, it's that. And then most of everything else in my sketches, like my page layouts, it's pretty much black and white. Sometimes I'll do tonal stuff where it's like if I need to like communicate, like this room's gonna be dark, and there's gonna be one little hot little candle in the corner for some reason. I'll do that. I'm trying to think.
When you ink, do you like when I've been printing my pages often cyan and magenta when I ink because I can't tell what it is sometimes. Like because I draw, it's like a small thumbnail, and then when I print it on the board and it's all bigger, I don't know what I'm looking at. So I separate the colors. So I make the backgrounds are always magenta. And the characters are always cyan. Yeah. But so why do you draw in blue? Because your sketches, lots of your under drawings are in blue. It's just and it's not non-photo blue either. It's just like a navy blue.
Off is just like I try to remember. I think I got it as like a non-photo bluey type thing, but then I just like the way it scans nicely into it as like a mid-tone, and you can darken it after you've scanned it in if you want to use it just as a regular like shaded pencil bit, and then you can bring another colored pencil into it and give something to pop, and so it makes for a cool looking sketch. I
think they're really cool. It's really cool.
And there's actually there's also a bit of cowardice in it too, where like black pencil is so like big and bold, but blue is such a mid-tone color. You can like build up, and then like, all right, that's where the head is. That kind of thing.
Yeah, you guys are both talking about coloring. How important is it to you to be able to communicate to the colorist and choose the colorist and all of that? Like, how involved do you tend to get in that kind of level of the process? O'Reilly?
I've only worked with Ivan for like 5 years now or something.
And I try not.
Yeah, and I try not to. He does this thing, and he does it really well, and he makes me look really good. So I try and just like I color code stuff for him, and usually that's enough. He often has a better idea than me. I only put color guides in if there's like something that's going to be hard to see, or in Martian Manhunter there's a couple panels that are or pages where there's so much like say all red or all green with characters sort of emerging from it that I'll give him notes on. But I'm pretty comfortable. I'm just really comfortable working with them.
And Nick, how about you? How much do you get involved in the coloring aspect of it?
Gosh, I'm really of two minds on it. For all my cover work, except for this recent Ginny Hex cover, I've colored all my own covers, just because we're actually at a point where the color is just as important as the art.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's getting a certain vibe across. But for the actual comics work, I always have a colorist, and that gets to be interesting too, where there's a certain fun and joy in just sending off black and white artwork and getting back this whole colorful world thrown back at you again. So like by the time you like, comics take a long time and a lot of effort to make. So like you're just like obsessing over the script and then obsessing over the line art and then obsessing over the inks and you just know every single little inch of it. So like having a big surprise at the end is kind of refreshing. It makes it all,
It's the best.
just right when you're about sick and tired of this damn comic, you're like, oh, wow, this is awesome again. And it comes to life. It's great.
I find especially when I have no idea how I would color it.
Yeah.
When I turn it like the Batman spread from Detective. I just sent it to him like, I don't know, Dead Man's Red on this. That's all I know. Whereas on a cover, I usually have a plan. I'm like, there's like a red color field here or a yellow color field, and I color most of the covers myself, except when I don't know what to do. If I get to a point that I'm like, I don't know, then I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should color this one.
What's nice too is when coloring your own covers, you can make last minute changes.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you make the line art that's being colored by somebody else, if you'll notice something at the very final stage of the coloring process. You're like, oh, this eyeball needs to be over here, or this background needs something else, you know. But when it's being colored by somebody else, you don't get to touch it again.
I got another question for you about covers, because you showed that Jenny Hex one really quick. Okay, so you do tons of covers where there's just like a character in the middle of a page. They kill me. They just kill me. I don't know how you do it. It's so hard. There's no there's little bits of story in it, but how do you figure out just like those iconic? There's a character standing there. Yeah,
no, I'm really not a huge fan of like the static covers where there's 1,000 things happening on it. Except every once in a while they're cool, you know, like it has to be the right idea. But then like you think that saves you time. Also, like you're like, oh, I can hammer this thing out. But then when it's just a single figure,
has to be perfect. Being
cool on a cover, you know, like then you obsess over the pose, you obsess over the face. It's like a good fashion magazine cover, you know. That's that aesthetic. It's about the body. It's about the swagger of the person that's up there that you're supposed to enjoy. But yeah, there's always a little bit of storytelling going on. All those a lot of those Mr. Miracle covers have like real simple.
They're awesome because there's just like a single thing.
Because that's the thing too, is like a lot of those Mr. Miracle covers, we didn't know exactly what was happening in those issues. So like it's like, how about a cool shot of Barda, or how about a cool shot or remember like there was like this. I had the idea for that the dark side head on it where it's reversed out black and white. I had that idea for a cover 6 months before, and I was like, just let me know when the dark side issue happens.
And you did, right?
I have an idea.
I think that's a good way to set them up. Is like on Martian Manhunter, I just spent like 3 weeks just doing just compositions and compositions and compositions, just sort of like a rough idea what they're about. And then once we were done, we had this whole like backlog of ideas that if we're short a month, it's Martian Manhunter doing this.
But that you're talking about like the simplicity of it all. That dark side head cover, that was like the initial idea, that's the initial sketch. But I also did like 20 other variations on it and I like, how about a border on it? How about this? And it's just like it was the most simple version that went back to the very first idea.
And it became one of our most popular covers on that run. People bring that up all the time.
Yeah,
gentlemen, we have run out of time. The deadlines are always upon us. Thank you so much. I know you're both working on future state stuff right now, which is going to be announced very soon. Thank you for coming here and sharing your art process with us.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks New York Comic Con for hosting us as well.